be speaking concerning the prophet Ezekiel. And we're going to be coming from chapter 16.
Hallelujah.
That's a big 16, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Let's jump right in. All right. We have Ezekiel 12, 1 through 5. And it reads, the word of Yahshua also came unto me, saying, Son of man, thou dwellest in the midst of a rebellious house. Please pass that mic up there, please. Thank you. Son of man, thou dwellest in the midst of a rebellious house, which have eyes to see and see not. They have ears to hear and hear not. But they are a rebellious house. You know, and I tell you, the more that I read the scriptures, and you know, the more that I conclude that as things have changed, they yet remain the same. Mm-hmm. You know, Israel is still a rebellious house. Many of them still have eyes, but still don't see. Many of them still have ears, and yet they still don't hear. Because they continue to rebel against the word of Elohim. In Romans 11, 25 and 26, it speaks to this as well. It says, for I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Yahweh. Well, from out of Zion has come our deliverer, Yahshua. And some still don't want to turn away from the ungodliness. Yes. You know, and it's sad. Some still want to continue to be rebellious. You know, this blindness in part happened for the fullness of the Gentiles to come in, but another part is just simply because they were rebellious. You know, and it's no different, you know, because Yah is no respecter of person. It's no different for us. You know, even us that have accepted the Messiah, Yahshua, if we become rebellious, He'll blind our eyes and stuff our ears too, so that we see and hear not. You know, Yah does require our obedience, which is better than sacrifice, better than the blood of goats and of bulls. You know, and even with the Messiah as being our everlasting sacrifice, He still wants us to obey Him. Hence He said, if you love me, keep my commandments. Verse 3 says, therefore, thou son of man, prepare thee stuff for removing, and remove by day in their sight, and thou shalt remove from thy place to another place in their sight. And it may be they will consider, though they be a rebellious house. So He's saying, you know, hey, I got something for you to do. You know, and even though they're rebellious, they're going to consider what I tell you to do. He says, prepare these stuff for removing. Now, these words for removing is golah. It comes from golah in the Hebrew number 1473, and it actually means captivity or exile. So, hence, Yah is telling the prophet Ezekiel, he says, therefore, son of man, prepare these stuff for captivity. You know, He's telling them, hey, I've been telling y'all, you know, I'm going to send y'all into captivity. Now, you know, here it is. You know, you don't get it this time. You know, I'm gonna have my man Ezekiel. I'm gonna have him demonstrate how you gonna be. Surely you should get it now. Verses 4 and 5 says, then shalt thou bring forth thy stuff by day in their sight, as stuff for removing, or stuff for going into captivity, and thou shalt go forth at even in their sight, as they that go forth into captivity. dig thou through the wall in their sight, carry out thereby. You know, so here it is. He's commanding the prophet Ezekiel to act like he's going into captivity, preparing his stuff to go into captivity. And he have them even digging in the wall, you know, to dig through the wall in their sight, saying, you know, hey, this is how y'all going to be doing. Y'all going to be trying to dig through this wall to get up out of here. You know, you're going to think you're getting away, but you're not going to go nowhere but into captivity. You know, so you should just listen now. Stop being rebellious and listen to the prophecies that have went forth. You know, now this is during the time when Zedekiah would have been ruling. You know, this is the time in which Ezekiel is prophesying. It's the very same time that his contemporary prophet Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah would have been prophesying too. So here it is. Zedekiah, the king of Yahudah at the time, he had two witnesses. You know, he had two prophets coming to him of Yah. He had Yirmiyahu and he had Ezekiel. Both coming to him telling them the same thing. Hey, I don't care what all these other guys saying. This place gonna fall. Yah's gonna send this place into captivity. They're gonna tear this place down and the people gonna go into captivity. You need to just give in now. This is what he was being told, but this is not what he wanted to do. Let me have my first read verses 6 through 11.
In their sight shalt thou bear it upon thy shoulders, and carry it forth in the twilight. Thou shalt cover thy face, that thou see not the ground. For I have set thee for a sign unto the house of Israel. And I did so as I was commanded. I brought forth my stuff by day, as stuff for captivity, and in the even I digged through the wall with mine hand. I brought it forth in the twilight, and I bare it upon my shoulder in their sight. And in the morning came the word of Yahuwah unto me, saying, Son of man, hath not the house of Israel, the rebellious house, said unto thee, What doest thou? Say thou unto them, Thus saith the Adonai Yahuwah, This burden concerneth the prince of Jerusalem, and all the house of Israel that are among them. Say, I am your sign, like as I have done, so shall it be done unto them. They shall remove and go into captivity.
Okay, can't get no clearer than that. You know, Yah's making it pretty clear. Yah's making it pretty clear that what he's going to do. He said he even set the prophet Ezekiel for a sign unto the house of Israel. He done set him for a sign. And in Ezekiel, of course, did as he was commanded, and he brought forth his stuff day by day, stuff by day and stuff for captivity. And in the evening, he digged through the wall with his hands and brought forth in the twilight. And he did all this in their sight. And of course, they're going to ask him, as in verse 9, you know, what you doing, man? And he was to say unto them, Thus saith Adonai Yahuwah, this burden concerneth the prince in Jerusalem, or the ruler of Jerusalem, which was Zedekiah, and all the house of Israel that are among them. So this is for all of Israel, and especially for the king Zedekiah, the prince, the ruler in Jerusalem. He said, I am your sign. Yah has sent me for your sign. I'm your sign. Like as I have done, so shall it be done unto them. They shall remove and go into captivity. See, now you have to understand that during this time, you know, some people say, well, how come he just didn't listen? You know, but he had many, probably dozens upon dozens of other prophets that was telling them what he wanted to hear. See, he didn't want to hear that he was going into captivity. That's not what he wanted to hear. He didn't want to hear that, you know, that Nebuchadnezzar was going to come up against him and smash him. He wanted to hear that, you know, hey, you know, our walls are fortified and we'll be able to keep them out and we'll overcome this just like we overcame all the other attacks. That's what he wanted to hear, and that's what his other prophets was telling him. but it was a lie. You know, it wasn't thus saith Yahuwah. But he had two real prophets, Yirmiyahu and Ezekiel here, telling them exactly what was going to happen. You know, but so many times we like to hear what we want to hear. So many times, you know, when we're given the option, we want to hear what we want to hear. We want to just acknowledge what the message we want to acknowledge, the one that sounds good to our itching ears. But this isn't going to turn out too good for old King Zedekiah and those that follow him. And neither is it will it turn out good for us, you know, when we seek other counsel or we follow other counsel outside of Yah's. Verses 12 through 14 says, and the prince that is among them shall bear upon his shoulder in the twilight, and shall go forth, and they shall dig through the wall to carry out thereby. And he shall cover his face, that he see not the ground with his eyes. So he's saying that the king, he's going to be among them, and he's going to also bear upon his shoulder. He's going to be trying to sneak out too in the twilight. And he's going to be digging through the wall too, trying to carry his little stuff out. And he's going to cover his face, so he see not the ground, probably so won't nobody know who he is. But Yah says in verses 13 and 14, he says, my net also will spread upon him, and he shall be taken in my snare. And I will bring him to Babylon, to the land of the Chaldeans, yet shall he not see it, though he shall die there. And I will scatter toward every wind all that are about him to help him, and all his bands. And I will draw out the sword after them. So he's saying everybody who come to help him, he gonna scatter them. Man, I would not want to receive no prophecy like this. He's saying, no matter who you get to help you, I'm going to scatter. My net is going to be spread before you. You're going to be taken. You're going to be taken in my snare. Now, there's a bit of a mystery in this prophecy. Because he says that he's going to be taken in his snare, and he's going to be brought to Babylon, to the land of the Chaldeans. But he also says, yet shall he not see it. How you going to be taken to the land of the Chaldeans and not see it? Even though he's going to die there, he's still not going to see it. Now, how is that going to happen? Well, just so happened that his contemporary, Yirmiyahu, he was prophesying something similar to the king. In chapter 34, verses 2 and 3, and Yirmiyahu says, thus saith Yahuwah. Now this is Yirmiyahu, his prophecy to the same king. Thus saith Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, go and speak to Zedekiah, king of Yahudah, and tell him, thus saith Yahuwah, behold, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. And thou shalt not escape out of his hand, but shall surely be taken and delivered into his hand, and thine eyes shall behold the eyes of the king of Babylon, and he shall speak with thee mouth to mouth, and thou shalt go to Babylon. Now, the Jewish historian Josephus, he stated that Zedekiah thought that these two prophecies contradicted each other. Therefore, he chose to ignore them both. Big mistake. But I can kind of see, where he's coming from, because here it is, Yahweh is telling them, you're going to get caught. And you're gonna be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon. And he's telling them, and thine eyes shall behold the eyes of the king of Babylon. But yet, Ezekiel telling them, that Yah's net going to be spread upon him. He's going to be taken in the snare. So he's telling him he's going to get caught too. And he's telling them, I'm going to bring him to Babylon, to the land of the Chaldeans. But Ezekiel saying, yet shall he not see it. So you see one of them telling him he won't see the land. And the other one telling him he going to look the king of Babylon face to face. They're going to speak with him mouth to mouth. And he's going to go to Babylon. So, as Josephus stated, he says when Zedekiah got a little confused, he thought the two prophecies contradicted each other. You know, so he chose to ignore them both. Well, let's take a look at what happened. In Yahshua 52, 5 and 6, it tells us, so the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And in the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land. All right, so that's kind of the thing they used to do. You know, when they came up against the city, they would surround the city and they would cut off the food supply and the water supply. You know, so they'd try to starve the inhabitants of the city out. You know, so whatever water was being fed into the city, they would cut it off, and then they wouldn't let anybody out or anybody go in. So whatever food that they had, eventually they would consume it, and then they'll begin to starve. And of course, if they, you know, a lot of people used to people having like, you know, crops and farms right there, you know, where they live. But it wasn't like that in the ancient times. You know, their fields were outside of the city oftentimes. You know, so they would have to go to their fields and work their fields and gather their food. You know, so if they were in a time of war and they were surrounded by the enemy, they couldn't go to their fields and get no food. But on the other hand, the enemy, who was camped out around the city, you know, they would be munching on their food to keep from starving themselves while they were starving the folks in the city out. So you see how that worked? You know, Yahshua 52, 7 through 11, it goes on to say, then the city was broken up and all the men of war fled, just like prophecy said. They were scattered, just like Ezekiel said, and went forth out of the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls. So you see they were even climbing through the wall, just like Ezekiel said. Which was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about it. And they went by the way of the plain. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho. And all his army was scattered from him. Ezekiel's prophecy come to pass. Then they took the king and carried him up unto the king of Babylon and Riblah in the land of Kamath, where he gave judgment upon him. So here it is, he did see the king of Babylon face to face. But it wasn't in Babylon, it was in Riblah, the land of Kamath, where he gave judgment upon him. And the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and slew also all the princes of Yahudah in Riblah. So here it is, he caused his sons to be killed, and he caused all the rulers that was in Yahudah with him to be killed in Riblah. And check this out, verse 11. It says, then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah. Remember the prophecy said that he will see the king of Babylon face to face. He'll talk to him mouth to mouth, but yet his eyes, yet even though he died in the land of Babylon, he'll never see the land of Babylon. And this is why. Because the king of Babylon, then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and the king of Babylon bound him in chains and carried him to Babylon and put him in prison till the day of his death. So both prophecies actually came true. Yirmiyahu's prophecy came true in that he did speak to the king of Babylon face to face, mouth to mouth. And Ezekiel's prophecy came true, whereby he did not see the land of Babylon, even though he would die there. So both of them was correct. See, Yah doesn't let the words of his prophets fall to the ground. Not his true prophets, anyhow. You know, I had someone tell me, you know, they were telling me about, you know, some modern day prophets, you know, and they were telling me, you know, something about them. And I asked them, I said, well, how do you know if they true prophets? I said, have you ever known anything for them to say to not come to pass or to fall? You know? And they said, yeah, they made a few mistakes. I said, true prophets of Elohim don't make no mistakes because they speak for Elohim. And Elohim will not let their words fall to the ground. You know, that's a true prophet of Elohim. They actually speak on behalf of Elohim. And Elohim is not going to allow their words to fall because their words are actually his words. They're not speaking for themselves. They're speaking for him. So there's no mistakes. Yah's prophets don't make any mistakes, okay? Can I get my next reader to read Exodus 12:15 through 20? I'm sorry. Ezekiel 12:15 through 20.
And they shall know that I am Yahweh when I shall scatter them among the nations and disperse them in the country. But I will leave a few men of them from the sword, from the famine, from the pestilence, that they may declare all their abominations among the heathen whither they come. And they shall know that I am Yahweh. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, eat thy bread with quaking, and drink thy water with truth and with terror. And say unto the people of the land, Thus saith the Adonai Yahweh, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and of the land of Israel, they shall eat their bread with carefulness, and drink their water with astonishment, that her land may be desolate from all that is within, because of the violence of all them that dwelleth therein. And the city shall and the city that are inhabited shall be laid waste, and the land shall be desolate, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh.
Hallelujah. So we see here, you know, a statement that Yah makes, you know, 3 times in just this short little passage. And that is that they shall know I am Yahweh. See, this is something that, you know, a lot of people just gloss over. See, but, you know, Yah wants us to know who he is. You know, and a lot of people don't understand, you know, the role of Israel in the earth. But it's made pretty clear here in verse 16. He says, I will leave a few of them from the sword. You know, he could have wiped them all out, but he said, I'm going to leave a few of them from the sword and from the famine and from the pestilence. Why? Why, Yah? That they may declare all their abominations among the heathen whither they come. And they shall know that I am Yahweh. See, Yah wants Israel to actually be the evangelist, his evangelist to the world. He meant for Israel to always to go into the world and evangelize the world and bring the whole world into the fold of Yahweh, so that the whole world may know that he is Yahweh. See, that was the whole plan and purpose of Elohim for Israel. It was that they may be his evangelists, that he might utilize them to educate the world concerning who he was and who he is. You know, so here we see in verse 16, he spares some of the people so that they can give their testimony to the people of the land where he sends them, so that they may know he's Yahweh as well. You know, so that's a beautiful picture of that right there. Let me have my next reader read verses 21 through 28, please.
saying, Son of man, what is that proverb that ye have in the land of Israel, saying, the days are prolonged, and every vision falleth? Tell them, therefore, thus saith the Adonai Yahuwah, I will make this proverb to cease, and they shall no more use it as a proverb in Israel. But say unto them, the days are at hand, and the effect of every vision. For there shall be no more any vain vision, nor flattering divination within the house of Israel. For I am Yahuwah, I will speak, and the word that I shall speak shall come to pass. It shall be no more prolonged. For in your days, O rebellious house, will I say the word, and will perform it, saith the Adonai Yahuwah. Again, the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, behold, they of the house of Israel say, the vision that he seeth is for many days to come, and he that prophesieth of the times that are off. Therefore say unto them, thus saith the Adonai Yahuwah, there shall none of my words be prolonged any more, but the word which I have spoken shall be done, saith the Adonai Yahuwah.
Hallelujah. And the storm is interfering. Okay, so here it is. We see Ezekiel receiving another word from Yah. You know, there was a proverb during that time. And that proverb during that time, you know, it spoke of, you know, the things that Yah would say. The days are prolonged and every vision faileth. Folks are seeing visions of Yah, but, you know, they're not coming to pass readily. You know, yeah, they're seeing these visions of Yah, but at the same time, you know, they way off. You know, Yah got tired of them saying this. You know, he got tired of them saying, so tired of them saying this. He tells Ezekiel, he says, Son of man, what is that proverb that ye have in the land of Israel, saying the days are prolonged and every vision fell? He says, they should no more use it as a proverb in Israel. He says, tell them that the days are at hand and the effect of every vision. You know, Yah is saying he's going to bring it to pass readily. He says, for I am Yahuwah, I will speak, and the word that I shall speak shall come to pass, and it shall be no more prolonged as in your days, O rebellious house. Will I say the word and will I say the word and will perform it, saith Adonai Yahuwah. So he's saying, hey, I'm going to say it and I'm going to do it. I was trying to give y'all some grace and some mercy so y'all can get yourself together, but now I'm just going to say it and do it. It says the vision that he seeth is for many days to come. He prophesied of the times that are far off. Nah, not no more. And it wasn't too long after Ezekiel prophesied this that it came to pass. Because Yah says he's not going to prolong his words anymore with them. And he didn't. And they went into captivity because they were rebellious, because they didn't want to listen. You know, so that should be a lesson unto us, that the same thing don't happen unto us. But alas, I digress. I want to go back for a minute and just talk about something. In Ezekiel 12, 6 through 11, we see that Yah has used Ezekiel and set him up for a sign unto the house of Israel. And he even told Ezekiel to tell them, I am your sign, like I have done, so shall it be done. You know, and I think this is noteworthy to make mention of because, you know, there are Yah does use his prophets, and even sometimes his prophets' families, to prophesy unto his people, to make them a sign, so that we know what to do and what not to do. Hence we read in Isaiah 8, verses 13 through 15, it says, sanctify Yahweh Zabaoth, or Yahweh of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. What sound advice, even nowadays. Set Yahweh Zabaoth, set him aside, let him be your fear, let him be your dread. And he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, for a gin and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and be snared and be taken. Now, we know, of course, that Yahshua is talking about our Savior, our beloved Messiah, Yahushua. He goes on to say in verses 16 through 18, bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples, and I will wait upon Yahuwah that hide of his face from the house of Jacob. I will look for him. And this is exactly what Yah did. This is what Yahushua, our Messiah, did. He bound up the testimony, and he sealed the law, his law that he received from the Most High among his disciples. And he waited on Yahuwah. Even in the face of death, he waited on Yahuwah. And it says, behold, verse 18, behold, I and the children whom Yahuwah hath given me are for signs and for wonders in Israel from Yahuwah Zabaoth, which dwelleth in Mount Zion. See, just as Ezekiel was a sign unto the house of Israel, so was Yahshua and his children, i.e. his apostles, were to be a sign unto Israel during that time and even during this time. He has sealed up his law within his disciples, and they've done a very good job of communicating it to us. This is how we got our Brit Kadashah, our New Testament writings. It was from the testimonies of these disciples. Now we need to do likewise, and we need to sanctify Yahuwah amongst ourselves, and let him be our fear, and let him be our dread, and let him be for our sanctuary, because we know our Redeemer lives. Amen. This is alluded to also in Hebrews 2, 9 through 13. It says, but we see Yahushua, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of Elohim should taste death for every man. For it became him for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. Our Messiah was made perfect through suffering. So how do you think that we're going to be made perfect? And this word perfect actually means complete. It doesn't mean without error. So he was made complete through sufferings. That's the same way we're to be made complete. Verse 11, for both he that sanctifieth and they who are sanctified are all of one. For which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again, behold, I and the children which Elohim hath given me. They're to be our sign. They are our sign. So that we know what to do and what not to do. But how many people come into the faith recognizing as the Messiah as the Savior and the Adonai of the faith, but yet don't do what he did. Yet don't do what his children did. What excuse are they going to have? That's the whole purpose. He came and he chose the ones that he chose because he knew that they would follow him. And even as it said in Ezekiel 12:11, that Ezekiel was their sign, they're our sign. Like they have done, so shall it be done. That's the way we're to do it, the same way they done it. You know, they walked out the Torah. Where should walk? We should walk out the Torah. They kept the commandments of Yahshua. We should keep the commandments of Yahshua. They came to show us the way. And they have shown us the way. How much more so should we walk in that way? That's all I have for you today. Pray it was a blessing to you.